Hi ladies and gentlemen, teacher Nondo. So in biology today, we'll be looking at genetics. So genetics, first of all, we need to define what genetics is. So genetics can simply be defined as the study of heredity, okay? So in other terms, we can define genetics as the study of inheritance and variation. So inheritance is simply the passing on of characteristics from parents to offsprings, and variation is simply the differences between the genes, or the differences between the genes, okay? So this is variation. We can also define genetics as the passing on of characteristics from parents to offsprings or children, okay? So for us to understand very well genetics, we need to understand genetic principles, or rather genetics terms. So these genetics terms were discovered by an Australian scientist called Gregor Mendel. So Gregor Mendel is the father of genetics. Okay, so let's look at the terms of genetics. So the first term is gene. So a gene is a basic physical and functional unit of inheritance. Or in other terms, we can define a gene as a basic unit of heredity or inheritance. Okay, so we have example of a gene. We have a gene of height, we have a gene of skin color, we have a gene of eye color, etc. So, okay, so when we looked at a cell, we said a cell is made up of a nucleus, and one of the functions of a nucleus is to store genetic materials. Okay, so in a cell or nucleus, we find what we call chromatide materials. Okay, chromatide materials are made up of, or rather they contain, what we call chromosomes, and chromosomes are made up of a gene. Okay, so basic units of a inheritance or inherited, we call them genes. Okay, okay, so this is what we mean when we say gene. Another term that we are going to look at is allele. Okay, allele, these are two or more forms of a same gene, or in other terms, or simpler terms, we can define an allele as the alternative form of the same gene. Okay, so the two existence of a same gene, we call them allele. Example, let's say look at the example of a gene of height. Okay, so height can exist in two forms. It can be either tall, okay, which can be written as capital T, or short, which can be written as a small letter t. So these two forms of a gene of height, we collectively call them as alleles. Okay, so another example of alleles, or gene of eye color. So eye color can exist in two forms. It can be either brown or white. So these two existence or alternative form of the same gene of height or eye color, which are brown and white, we call them alleles. Okay, so you should not be confused between allele and gene. An allele is simply the alternative form, okay, of a same gene. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at another term, which is dominant gene. So a dominant gene is a variation of a genetic code that creates a phenotype even in the presence of another allele. Example, let's look at this example. Okay, let's look at the gene of height. Okay, so gene of height can be either TT or T and shortened. So this we have tall and short. Okay, so this allele or gene that makes an individual to look how he looks, we call it a dominant gene. So this is what we mean when you saw a dominant gene or allele. Another term that we're going to look at is recessive gene. So recessive gene is simply a variation of a genetic code that do not create a phenotype if a dominant allele is present. For example, we are going to take the same example, a gene of height. So a gene of height we said can be TT, which is tall or short. Now, if an individual carries the same genes, okay, same genes of shortness, okay, same genes of shortness. So these two same genes of shortness, we call them recessive genes, okay. So let's move on. We look at another term. We call another term homozygous allele. So homozygous allele is a condition where an individual has the same allele. For example, we have the same alleles of height, which are total, okay. We have allele of height, which are short, height of genes or alleles of eye color, which are brown, white. So these two same same alleles an individual may have, we call them homozygous alleles. Another term we are going to look at is heterozygous, which is an opposite of homozygous. So heterozygous is simply the condition where an individual has different alleles. For example, we have a gene of height where an individual may have alleles tall and short. So these two different alleles, we collectively call them heterozygous alleles. Okay? Okay. So let's move on. We look at another term. We call it another term. Another term we are going to look at is phenotype. So phenotype, these are physical characteristics of an individual. Example, we have skin color, okay, eye color, height, etc. So the physical characteristics of an individual, we call them phenotype. So another term we are going to look at is genotype. So genotype, it can be defined as these genetic characteristics. Example, height, eye color, okay, skin color, etc. So genetic materials, we call them, or genetic characteristics, we call them genotype. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. So next time when we come, we are going to continue where we have ended, where we'll be discussing mutation, how to plot, genetics. We are going to learn anemia, why anemia is a genetic disease. We are going to discuss more. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page, that is Teacher Nondo, so that whenever I post, you'll be notified. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and share.